Welcome back to this special edition of State of Texas here from Uvalde. Now, Jala, we've been talking to members of the family and the community, and you can still just feel how difficult this is for everyone.
Very difficult. Being out here, it's like no time has passed at all. Still have people coming out here paying their respects. We spoke to a dad who is still grief-stricken. He lost his only child, so absolutely devastating. He, of course, was taken aback when that video was released early, but he's hoping that people can really focus on what's important here. The lives that were lost, as well as what we can do to make sure this never happens again. Alfred Garza III welcomed us into his home. And everywhere you look, you see his baby girl, Amerie Jo. It's been almost 2 months since she was taken from him, but for the first time yesterday, he saw this video from inside the school as the shooting happened.
It was kind of hard to hear the rounds firing. That was kind of hard, knowing that, where those bullets went.
Were you glad that it was put out there?
It's a double-edged sword. I kind of hate it that bits and pieces are coming out because I would like to see the puzzle as a whole without pieces missing. Because when stuff like this comes out, kind of everybody draws their own conclusions as to this happened, that happened.
Maybe most upsetting for Garza was seeing how many officers were in the school for as long as they were before the shooter was killed. What was going through your mind when you actually saw the response that we already knew was the case?
They took an oath to serve and protect, and I feel like somebody should have taken initiative and said, hey, we got to do something now.
As questions go unanswered for now, Uvalde's mayor said the video shouldn't have been released before families could view it.
It's one of the most chicken things I've ever seen. Yes, I've wanted the video released, but all these news agencies knew that we were working with the House committee.
Garza now just wants to keep being a voice for his Amerie.
We still have a lot of children that need to go back to school, that want to go back to school, and parents are, scared to send them.
And Jayla, we know there's been mixed reaction on the early release of the video. What have we been hearing from other parents? Not all of them were as forgiving of the nature of how this got out to the public.
Yeah, not as forgiving, to say the least, because this, keep in mind, had audio of gunshots being fired into classrooms. So some parents are saying this is just a tragic reminder that's going to be circling around the internet of how their kids were murdered inside of the school.
We know that pain is going to, unfortunately, continue to be felt from this community even long after, once we finally get some answers. Josh, back to you.
Thank you both. Governor Abbott had been calling for the video to be publicly released, and while the way it came out was not as planned, he said seeing the video provides valuable context about what went wrong.
Whenever there is a school shooting or other similar type of shooting taking place, you run toward the shooter. For reasons that are coming to light, that did not happen. And so we need to make sure, from a law enforcement perspective, whether it be from DPS to your local law enforcement to school law enforcement officers, everyone needs to understand if there's a school shooter, you run toward that shooter, encounter the danger, and eliminate the shooter.
But to fully understand the failure in Uvalde, we have to look to the past, specifically 1999 and Columbine High School in Colorado. 2 gunmen killed 12 students and 1 teacher. As investigator Matt Grant explains, lessons learned then still guide law enforcement today and should have in Uvalde.
We came to realize that when people are being shot and killed, you can't wait.
Former Austin Police Chief Art Acevedo has led departments in Houston and Miami. He's now a law enforcement consultant and says Columbine fundamentally changed how police nationwide train and respond to active shooters.
Waiting for the perfect tactical unit to show up isn't the answer, because we know that the majority of the deaths will happen within the first 2 to 3 minutes. And so time is of the essence.
During Columbine, officers waited 47 minutes to enter the school. Back then, police protocol called to set up a perimeter and wait for SWAT. That approach changed after Columbine training called for officers to immediately confront a gunman to save lives. As part of legally required training for Texas school law enforcement, Uvalde CISD officers had been told to do exactly that. Quote, neutralize the threat, even if that means one officer acting alone. That is not what this hallway video leaked to the Austin American-Statesman shows.
It was hard to watch. It was hard to watch officers stand in a hallway, keeping themselves safe and not doing what's required of us, which is to put ourselves at risk.
The video shows officers defying protocol and past lessons, taking more than an hour to confront the gunman. 30 minutes longer than it took officers at Columbine 23 years ago. Matt Grant, State of Texas.
It's rare but not unprecedented for officers to face charges for not taking actions in situations like this. A school resource officer in Parkland, Florida is awaiting trial on charges of child neglect under a state caregiver law. He is accused of failing to act during the mass killing that left 17 people dead 4 years ago. These stories are part of our Stop Mass Shootings initiative. It's a series of reports that aim to provide context and explore solutions surrounding gun violence. Just scan the QR code on the screen with your smart device to access that project. It will take you to the section on our website where you can find our in-depth coverage.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Families from Uvalde joined the fight in Washington for tighter gun rules, how their stories are making an impression on lawmakers working to change policy.
This is not politics. This is not a turf battle. You know, we're trying to maintain the power supply for Texans who rely on it.
Record heat across Texas raises concerns for the state's power grid. We dig deeper into the rising need for electricity and what's missing from how we predict the demand for power.